Welcome back, everybody. I got started on the right flap. You can see it back here. I kind of went ahead and did it without starting the video because, well, you've seen me do most of this on the left one. So at the point it's at now, everything is pre-drilled, final sized. All the brackets are fabricated. The holes are drilled, bends are made, all that good stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and pick it up from here. I'll get the GoPro set up and start recording, and I'm going to start taking this all apart, and then it'll be the typical deburring of the holes, edge prep, dimpling, all of that good stuff. I didn't video me dimpling the skins or whatnot last time, so I'll probably throw that in on this one. And then for the assembly of this one, which will be part of this same video, we're going to try the suggestion from a previous viewer to go look at Ryan Fly's video on his flaps. I did go watch that. I liked the method he used better, so we're going to try it on this and see how we like it. It's the last flap I got to do, so it's not going to help me with the one I already did, but it looks like it'll make assembling this a little bit easier, so we'll give that a shot. Anyways, stick around, hope you enjoy it, and get ready for voiceover part. Welcome to the voiceover section. So, picking up where I left off, I started this the day before Thanksgiving and finished it up yesterday during Thanksgiving. By the time I got done with everything and got the video pulled, it was time to do all the Thanksgiving things and enjoy my food and family, and figured I would get to posting this video today. So hopefully everybody had a good Thanksgiving. So on to the flap build. This first part's just me disassembling everything, marking those little tiny shims that go in the back of those ribs. So I put them back where I drilled them for. Now I'm marking the hinge for the location of that nut plate that's going to hold the hinge retainer in. I'm marking the hinge where I need to remove the two teeth from one side and one from the other, or hoops, or whatever you want to call them. And now I've got my nut plate guide out, and I'm drilling for the nut plate that I'm going to put in the spar. That will hold those hinge pins in place later on. Lots of lessons were learned on the other flap, so I'm trying to get more of the prep stuff done now. Some of this I didn't do until after I primed last time and regretted it. Still didn't help. The primer got all jacked up, but again, this part that does get messed up is going to get covered up with better primer and paint and whatnot later. So now you see me machine countersinking the bottom edge of the spar. This is so that when you put the hinge on later on, you don't have to worry about dimpling or machine countersinking the hinge itself. And now dimpling the top side. Start dimpling the ribs, and I'll cut from here so you don't have to sit there and watch me do all of the prep work on all of the parts. I did promise I'd show some of the skin prep this time, so here you go. Going through and dimpling the bottom skin right now, and then we'll move on to the top. Trying to get everything that I can with the squeezer before I break out the C-frame. So anything it can reach, I'm trying to reach. Getting the C-frame all prepped, ready to start dimpling. And right here you can see I'm dimpling from the top down. This is just so I can get good dimples on the forward part of that top skin. But in a second you'll see I'll flip the dies back around. That way I can get the other side. There you go. Yeah. So now I've flipped the dies around so that I can get back in there and get the row of holes that go to the center ribs. Back to the hand squeezing. The part you didn't see me do was I broke that edge over on that top skin bottom side where it overlaps the bottom skin. Again, that's so it gets a good, nice, tight fit. Here you see me using the close quarter dimple dies for those hard to reach spots. Now this is Thanksgiving morning and everything that I wanted to prime is primed, and it's time to start assembling. So now we're going to start the Ryan flies portion of the assembly. Starts the same as before, except I'm not going to build up as much of it as I did last time. I've got those ribs clecoed in place, and I'm going to start with the rear ones. That's still a consensus on the starting point. You got to get those done first. Those are easy enough to squeeze. I think they're just 4-4 AN 470 rivets. So that's done. It's on to riveting the bottom side and get those ribs riveted in place without it being on there. This was definitely much easier. I did attempt, the reason you see rows of tape on there and you see me pulling it back, I attempted to see if I could back rivet those on. Couldn't do it even with my offset back riveter. It's not offset enough to get in there because the ribs are just too tight. So you still got to rivet it the normal way with just a gun and a bucking bar, but much easier doing it this way than when it's all together and you got to stick your hand down in there. The only concern with doing it this method is making sure you don't end up with twist or any kind of bow or something in the flap when you're done. At this point it should be easy. You're just attaching ribs. It's no different than when you put stiffeners on or anything else. So it's later on when you do that aft line that you got to be super careful. So now the other tip that he did that you see me do there, and it's actually going to bite me in the ass, I don't recommend this one. I put one rivet in that holds that nut plate in there, and then I swung the nut plate out of the way so that when I go to rivet the skin later on onto that rib, I can get in there with a bucking bar. Last time I had to use a pull rivet because I couldn't get in there after I had set that nut plate. But we'll get to what happens with that here in a little bit. Back edge. The only thing I would do different on this now is the Ryan flies technique. He leaves the other side open so you can splay this thing open and get your hand down there easier. Definitely better. Just to be safe and make sure everything lines up, what I didn't do that I should have is I should have clecoed the ribs on the other side first, then put those clecos in that long line, then remove the clecos from the ribs. That way I was sure everything was lined up and straight. I didn't do that. I just clecoed the line together and went ahead and riveted it. I got lucky. It worked out, but I think clecoing the assembly together and then taking the clecos out of the ribs on the top side so you can get in there is probably the safer way to do this. But in the end, it worked out. They came out really nice. The edge looks really good. And you can see that thing moving up and down because it still isn't clecoed together on the other side. Now I'm putting those clecos in so I can put rivets in and get the top side riveted. So overall, this whole process was a lot easier this way. Again, you just have to be careful that you don't induce any unwanted twist or anything in the flap. Now I'm installing the end rib This is the one that's got that bracket on it and the nut plate. Now by only putting one rivet in the nut plate and swinging it out of the way, I was absolutely able to get in there and buck that one rivet underneath it and not have to use a pull rivet on the bottom side. However, in retrospect, I wish I would have done it the other way, because putting that last remaining rivet in the nut plate after I swung it back into position was damn near impossible. So yeah, here you see me shooting the rivets that are holding that rib in. This was easy enough. No real worries there. Now I'm lining that nut plate back up, and the remaining rivet that you got to put in is right at the edge of that bracket. You can't really get the rivet gun on the head. You can't back rivet it because you can't get the rivet gun inside the bay, because I tried that. I tried putting a pull rivet in there. That wouldn't fit in there. Ultimately, I was able to get a regular rivet in, and I had to use the rivet gun hammering on the back rivet set that was pushed up against it. It was ugly and it was stupid, but it's in there. So, lesson learned, just rivet that nut plate on as normal before you put that bracket on, and then just deal with the one rivet you can't get to by putting a blind rivet in the bottom. It's not going to hurt anything. So the other side, much easier, because the flange faces you, so you can just get in there and squeeze all of these rivets. Even the trailing edge, I was able to squeeze with my squeezer. Again, it's a very tight space. There you see me drilling out the trailing edge one because I screwed it up the first attempt. I thought maybe I could fix it with the little makeshift bucking bar and the rivet gun, but that didn't really work. Ultimately, I was just able to get in there with the squeezer. So now I'm setting the nut plate that's going to be the retainer for the hinge pins. And it's time to get the spar in there now that everything else is done. So Cleco that in, and then those are just pull rivets that hold the spar to the front of the ribs. They're a little difficult to get in there, especially the one on the curved surface. But overall not bad. Now when it comes to riveting the two long lines, top and bottom, I recommend riveting that top one first without the hinge in the way. Made it a little bit easier. Then flip it over and put the hinge on and squeeze all those rivets for the hinge. So this is the only part where I kind of had alignment issues. You see me using the pick there to just make sure the holes are aligned. I'm sure this has to do with it not completely being Clecoed together before riveting it. Thankfully, it wasn't that bad. I didn't have to do anything drastic. It was just a matter of kind of nudging it into alignment and then getting the rivets in there so I can go through and set them all. In here I had to use the 3-inch yoke because the longeron one's too tall and it was hitting that curved top edge while I was trying to do this. And as I mentioned last time, make sure your spacing is correct when you go do this so that you don't, for your squeezer set, so you don't accidentally crush one of those eyelets. Alright, time to make the hinge pins. I kind of wish I had done this on the other side, but I decided to make these more right angles. It just looks nicer. It's not going to change anything, and nobody will ever see the other one. Well, aside from everybody that watches the video. Maybe I'll redo it later on. I got to get new hinge pins if I want to do it, but for now, these ones came out really nice. I got to touch up the primer that got scratched up doing all of this, but that's it. All the control surfaces for the plane are done. That's the last major assembly aside from bottom skins for the right wing. I got lots of little stuff to do and clean up, but it's kind of a milestone. Feels weird to be here. Can't wait to get on to the next stuff. So, yeah. Anyways, hope you all enjoyed it. Come back for the next one, and I will see you all later.